quite an astonishing leak with this draft coming out from the Supreme Court justices. How could a leak like this have happened with something so sensitive?
Well, it's great to be here, and I think that's the question everyone's asking. It's really, to use the word of the year, it's unprecedented that somebody would leak this, but I think it shows the rights that are at stake and how passionately people feel about how the ultra-conservative justices on this court are really running roughshod over women's rights.
And it is interesting because you read, my understanding, this draft was assigned to conservative Justice Samuel Alitos. Now, he writes that the original ruling was egregiously wrong. It's an indication as to how they are leaning.
Yeah, it's a frightening draft of an opinion. It's definitely the worst case scenario. I think I and many other people and legal authorities in the U.S. have been saying that Roe versus Wade is very likely to be overturned. We didn't know if they would seek to do it in sort of one hit or two. This looks like one big devastating blow is Alito's intention. Again, this is not a final draft. There may be other opinions circulating, but as you say, this one really is chilling. And if it's the final, if they don't modify it, if they don't take action, it's really going to be devastating by turning rights back to the states in the U.S. They would abandon the federal constitutional right, and that's really been a decision that women and people seeking abortions in America have relied on for half a century now.
Yeah. So if that should happen, let's just make that as an assumption, it would be up to the states. How many states do you think would move, like some we've already seen, to really contest abortions after 6 weeks?
Right. So the people who are really looking closely at the legislation and at which party controls in the governor's office or the state houses say it's about 20 to 26, give or take. We do have elections coming up in the states. And some people, like myself, believe that this is a real call to action and to look at states such as Nebraska or Pennsylvania are two where whether or not abortion remains an option in the state entirely will depend upon who is elected to the state houses, whether there's a governor who's a Democrat, because it is predominantly Democrats who are protecting abortion rights at this point, even though people and individuals, and particularly women in both parties, agree that this is a fundamental human right we're talking about to access abortion.
So then how, to your point, could it galvanize a political movement? We saw protests on both sides, really, after this leak came out. How might it impact the midterm elections coming up?
Well, the majority of Americans, over 60%, do support a woman's right to make the decision to have an abortion. So it is a majority viewpoint. Among Democrats, that number rises even higher. And then on top of that, we have people who are champions for abortion rights, particularly some of the newer, more progressive women and women of color who are being voted into office, who really see this as an issue of your ability to participate in the world, to be free from discrimination, to have bodily autonomy. And that's how we need to start talking about this in our state houses. And we need to, as voters, start demanding that the people who want our vote recognize that this is a right, not just a choice. So I do think there's some hope in that way. I've been talking to people since the leak came out, I guess about 12 hours ago, maybe a little more in America. And they're shocked, they're saddened, but they're also angry, and they're asking me, what can we do? And I think that's a really important question, because we've known that we would get to this point with the Supreme Court. We don't know how quickly, but we've known that Roe has been, not here to stay under the Supreme Court for a long time.
Yeah. When, we think back to Donald Trump's presidency, 3 justices were confirmed during that time. And during those confirmation hearings, they insisted that they would not interfere where a precedent had been set. They are now justices. How much pressure could they come under now?
Well, I think that's a very good question. This has been something that has been on their to-do list, on the top of their to-do list, and the states have known it. When we saw the justices close their eyes to Texas abortion ban and the just devastating results that has had since September 1st of last year, They're impervious. I think Justice Roberts, who's the Chief Justice, a little less so, but his vote doesn't matter anymore. As you said, Beverly, with 3 Trump-appointed justices, we lost that battle. It's the U.S. Supreme Court is all about counting to 5 justices, and they have it. So I think it really is time to, say goodbye to Roe, unfortunately, but there's a lot we can do and that we will take action in this country. And I think, the U.S. needs to follow the model of other countries that have been liberalizing abortion laws, whether it's Ireland or Mexico or Colombia, Argentina. We're looking at mass protests led by women and people who are their allies, who are saying this is a fundamental human right and we're not going to take it sitting down. We're going to demand more. So I'm optimistic for the future, but I think in the meantime, we're also really going to have to support women and people traveling for abortions in the U.S. because those states in the United States where abortion will remain legal, at least 15 of them, they're going to be hard to reach. They're on our coasts. Travel's expensive. Over half the people who are looking for abortion services are already parents, are already mothers. So there are childcare expenses. There are leaves from work. There are a whole bunch of costs that people in America are ready to step up and start giving privately to support people and to make sure they get abortion pills for medication abortion when needed.
We even noticed that Amazon was going to pay travel expenses. They sort of just phrased it under medical costs, but it was fairly clear as to what that might mean. So when do you think this draft might be handed down in a more formal sense? If it stays the way it is?
Well, they have until the end of June when term ends. They could release it any time. It is really unusual to have a draft released early. The people I've been speaking with, none of us have ever heard of this happening before. So, I have a feeling it was a shock to the Supreme Court as well, and how they react remains to be seen. But I think, more voices, more pressure until the duck comes down, as they say. I'm thrilled to hear that companies are standing up. We really tried to get a lot more corporations to speak up against Texas's ban the way they did around some of the anti-LGBTQ plus legislation that we've been seeing in the schools. We had some corporations come up and support Citibank, Match.com, but we really need corporations to realize this isn't just about shuttling women from state to state and helping abortion migration, but really saying we can't have these laws. These states need to be safe havens, not aggressively taking away women's rights.
Yeah, Julie, appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.